But I drink tea, and somebody said to me, "Oh, you've got another cup of tea?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm like the IT lady." And then, then I was like, "Actually, that's a good name for a company." And I literally looked around the office and like Earl Grey, English breakfast, peppermint tea. We came across, and was like, "Yeah, that's a great name." And then we just drove around with them, and every single day we would get a telephone call from somebody who saw.
That's brilliant.
And it didn't it just said nothing else, just IT lady. These kids who are just so patient and so understanding. And a lot of the time it is people just want company. I think the connotation of a geek 30 years ago is very different to what it is now. It's kind of cool to be a geek. So long as you're kind and you're empathetic and you understand somebody else's position and don't treat them like they're any of they're not, then you can work for me.
Cinnamon IT is a tongue twister.
No, I know, because we're like Earl Grey, English breakfast, chai.
No, I think peppermint's good.
Then we came across peppermint and we were like, yes, peppermint tea, that's it. It's the meaning behind it is really important, isn't it?
Exactly.
And that's how, that's how I started IT Lady, because, I don't drink coffee, I drink tea.
Yeah.
And someone said to me once, do you drink coffee? I mean, you always seem to have a cup of tea. And I was like, yeah, I don't drink coffee. He said, I'm like that IT Lady. That's a good name for a company. And so, that's how the IT Lady was started. But for me, it's a little bit more about, not so much, IT Lady is kind of cute, but for me always IT is frustrating for people. And as a consultant for 30 years, the idea that, when we're working with people, we usually get them at a very frustrated point of the day. They've called us because they're at their wits' end, cranky, they don't know how to solve the problem that they've got. And so, I always think, you just need to stop for a minute and have a cup of tea and a bicky. Don't think about it for a second, just walk away and come back. And, and quite often, either the problem is sorted because the computer's had time to think for itself, or you've got a refreshed, whatever the hormones in your brain.
Better to deal with the people once they're a bit more relaxed as well, no? Because when people are frustrated with IT things, they can get really frustrated. We've all seen those videos.
Yes, we have.
Well, Louise, welcome to the Startup Fail Wisdom podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you on. And now you've got, I think, around 30 years experience in IT.
I do.
Yeah, and you're also involved in a startup as well, which is doing some amazing stuff, helping people in aged care, and I would also say helping high school students as well with so many things, including probably their mental health and resolving IT issues and IT literacy. So that's just a brief overview, but tell us a bit more about yourself. How you got started, because I know there's not a lot of women in the IT industry, and I have been in that industry. So it's great to see women in that industry. But tell us about your background, even before you got into IT. Tell us about you.
So I hardly even remember before I got into IT. It was some time ago. But I grew up and I was going to be a pop star. I played the piano and I sang, and my first job out of school was singing and playing in piano bars.
Really?
And I was teaching piano, and I thought, I don't really want to teach, but I don't want that to be my job for the next 30 or 40 years. And I didn't really love performing that much.
Okay.
I love playing the piano. It's very relaxing and calming. And it's always, I feel, been good for my mental health. But I found a job in the paper that was teaching people to use typewriters.
So you use what, sorry?
Typewriters.
Oh, typewriter.
You know those
things? I am that old. Yeah, I do know what a typewriter is.
You know those things that came
those
before
mechanical
computers.
things. Yeah.
And I thought, well, that's kind of the same as teaching someone to, I'd done all the piano teaching training, and I was like, well, it's kind of the same. It's a keyboard, and and so I got this job for a company called Olivetti. And
that was a big name. Are they still around, Olivetti?
I don't know, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe. Don't know. Haven't. I mean, they would be vastly different to what they were back then.
Yeah.
And so my job was to the salespeople. So they'd invented these typewriters that had one line of memory in them, and so my job was to go. I guess I was 20, maybe 19 or 20 at the time. And so my job was to go with the salesperson and do like the present, like sit there and do the presentation.
Yeah.
So I was like the sales girl, I guess. Well, I didn't have to do any selling, I just had to smile and show them how to use this typewriter thing.
Yeah.
With this amazing facility of, you could put 3 lines of text.
Amazing.
And then you could press the button and go and make a cup of tea while your letter printed out. Because prior to that, if you made a mistake on a letter, you had to type the whole letter again. Right? so you could edit a letter and change your words. And so anyway, so I would have to do the demonstration. If the customer bought the typewriter, I would then go back to the warehouse, pick up the typewriter, take it to the customer, unbox it, set it all up for them, and teach them how to use it.
Right.
So it was called a customer support representative. That was my first job in IT.
I saw a post on your Facebook page saying if you can type really fast, you can save some huge amount of time.
I was wondering the other day, so I asked ChatGPT if I can type at 120 words a minute compared to the average typing speed, which is 40 words a minute.
So you do type at 120?
Yeah, I do. How much more productivity am I getting out of my day by being able to type that much faster? Assuming that you might type for an hour and a half a day, I think was the calculation.
Which most people would these days.
It came back with like full calculations. It had, like the scientific calculations on the screen. I was very impressed with it. And it told me that I saved 21 days a year. In fact, 7 hours a week with 1.5 hours typing, so I can type.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's like a 3-week holiday.
It is. Yeah, except that I don't take the 3 months and do extra work in those 21 extra days. Right. It did make me wonder, because over the years, obviously I work with a lot of people and I sit next to people while they're, while I'm helping them with their computer problems, and it's really frustrating sometimes. I just think, just pop over there for a minute and I'll finish it for you.
One finger typing. Exactly. Where's the E?
Yeah, and the mouse to get to the next box on the page.
Yeah, when you're an IT person.
I'm a keyboard shortcut person. I don't want to take my hands off the keyboard if I can.
Yeah.
But that happened because I went to typing school for 4 weeks.
All right.
And back then you went to this place where like you just went every day for 4 weeks and you just learned to type with a TV screen. And I think because I was a piano player, my fingers were already quite nimble.
Perfect.
So I can fairly well type as fast as I can speak. And I wondered, because people often say to me, "Oh, your emails are quite lengthy," and I think they're lengthy because they can be. Yeah. Because I'm just I'm typing what I'm thinking. Yeah. And then that's the end of the email, and it's taking me 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. So we started up a typing club at Peppermint IT, so people can join up and they can get a reminder every day, because really there's you just do online typing test stuff. You do an online typing test for 15 minutes a day and just practice your typing, then you can save, and that's where the 21 days, if you can increase your typing speed by 20%,
right,
you can save 21 days a year.
Yeah, that's amazing. Actually, when I was 18, I was actually working at the General Hospital here in Sydney in the radiology department and developing x-rays, which was like acid, alkaline and water, and then like put on the red lights. It was crazy. And it was just this tiny room. And then there was a lot of downtime. Yeah. And then some of the girls there, they had some program to learn how to type. And I'm so grateful I did that, because now I can type not 120, like 40, I don't know what it is, but if I was doing the one finger typing, you would waste so much time.
Yeah. So, and I think for me, that's always been my passion, is time saving. It's the only thing that we all have that's the same, is the amount of hours in the day. Yeah. And so, I've always been really passionate about how can you get the most amount of time in your day, and what can you put inside of your day. Yeah. And that's really, one of the big things for me. I had, 2 really sporty kids, and sometimes we would have 7 games on a weekend between the 3 of us, and we'd have to leave the house at 7, and we wouldn't get back till 7 o'clock on a Sunday. Yeah. And I would find that, I'd have to get up early on a Saturday morning and get all the washing done, and wash all the uniforms, make sure everything's ready, get all the lunches, get all the stuff packed, clean the house, do the bathrooms, do the whole thing. What I found is, I could get as much done in an hour and a half if I had somewhere to go at 7. If there was nothing on during the day, it'd take me the whole day to do the housework. so I kind of I kind of figure that, you know, if you have that schedule and you have plans in place and you've got that structure, you can get so much more done.
That's true, and a lot of startup founders, particularly when they start, they don't really organise themselves. They might have been in the job, right? So it could be 9 to 5, for example, and there's different things they got to do during the day. They have it planned out, and then they start and they think, oh, I'll do a bit of this, a bit of that. Even with the hours as well. So you're actually better off like planning your whole week and what you do and where you're more productive. For example, in the morning, that's when you do the most important work.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. Okay, so you're working at Olivetti, and then where from there?
So, so the typewriters turned into computers. Like the memories got bigger. They started getting floppy disks.
Floppy disk.
DOS came
Amazing
into
technology.
Exactly.
A lot of people probably don't even know what
DOS
it is.
turned up. The big computer screen, and then the floppy disk, and then you could do like 2 whole pages of a document.
Amazing.
And then print it out.
Yeah.
Go have a cup of tea.
Yeah.
And so I really kind of from an IT perspective, I just got in like when it started. And I kind of grew with it
Very
over the
beginning.
years. And I just, it really, technology really works for my productivity focus because and the fact that IT changes every day, there's something new, there's something that comes up. And that frustrates people. Like, we have reverse parenting in my family, and my daughter hates that technology changes. Like, she just wants to go back to 1990 when she just had a little phone and she just had one thing to do. But me, I love it. I love that there's there's an upgrade happening. I'm like, yes, what's new? What new buttons do I have? What new emojis have they put in? What new things? What can I do that's quicker? Last week, Microsoft have brought out this thing called Loop, which means when you're on a Teams meeting, you can assign people tasks, and then the Loop thing comes in, and it's like you can have these little boards where you can assign everybody tasks, and you can keep up with the tasks, and anything new that feels like it's going to save some time so that we can do something else extra in our day, I'm on top of it. And so, that's what I've just always loved about IT. And you're right, there's always been me and 50 men in most rooms that I've gone to over the years. It's getting much better, and it's definitely one of my passions is to get more women into IT as well.
Interesting, because I actually taught IT some years ago, and it was like online, a very large organisation, and I'd say at least half the teachers were actually females. But the industry is reflected like that. And just going what you're saying about saving time, I think that successful startups are those that can save people time or effort, make things quicker. We all want, we're all time poor. So I think a lot of successful startups will, be able to save people time, because that's a precious asset that we have these days. Yeah,
for sure. And when I started the company 5 years ago, someone said to me, just do it really simple. Just, don't go to the expense of getting a CRM, just put everything in a spreadsheet. And that might be good advice for some people, but for me, that's that's a waste of time for me. The amount of time, I can set up the fanciest spreadsheet you've ever seen in your life, but it's not going to be productive for me managing clients and billing time against clients. And there was a whole lot of stuff that for an IT company we needed to implement pretty quickly to make sure that our systems were productive, so that we can be given.
So for an early stage startup founder with not much money, are there some free CRMs they can start off with?
Yeah.
Because we used HubSpot, the free version.
We used HubSpot. We started with HubSpot as well. And so HubSpot as a startup company, I think it's like 97% off the first year. So it's a great strategy to get people into something. They do have a free version, which has a certain amount of users, I think, and some limitations. So I went for I think it was probably costing us $200 a month. Right. But for me, anything, so it's always a way up for me. Like, how much time is this going to take? Time is money. So, exactly. So we used HubSpot for the first few years. Once it got into the third year, and we had to pay price. It was a lot more expensive. And it also didn't do exactly what we needed at that point. So we did switch away from HubSpot, but it was, a great option to start with.
And you can export everything, right?
Yeah.
CRMs.
Yeah, like I clicked a button and it just took everything out and put it into the new CRM.
That's nice. So now with AI as well, is that landscape changed with the CRMs?
I mean, I think that there's still a certain amount of human intervention in a CRM that needs to happen. There's lots of stuff that you can automate.
Yeah.
And AI is helpful for a lot of things, but I think from a CRM perspective, that you can do a lot of automations, but you need to be, if you're a small startup, you need to be on top of who your customers are. So
oh yeah, absolutely. Okay, so tell us a bit about that early time in the IT industry where you're the one female with 50 guys. Tell us some stories about that.
I know that, I used to go to industry events and various things, and I don't know, I mean, there would probably be 100 guys and, maybe 2 or 3 girls. And that never really bothered me. They were all super nice. I can't really think of any particularly interesting stories other than one guy who sat across the table from me once thought that he was having a big mouthful of avocado and it was wasabi.
Okay. You didn't get it all on you,
totally
did you?
Unrelated, no, but
Okay.
his head was about to blow up, and I think he was a bit embarrassed because he was sitting across from the only girl. But no, I mean, you kind of have to use to your advantage what you can.
Right.
And so, I don't mind hanging out in a group of 50 guys. That's totally okay with me.
Yeah.
And that I just kind of never really, I'm a girl, but I don't really know why it's just guys. I think one of the things for me in starting up IT Lady was that I think that we do need to bring a bit more feminine approach to the IT industry, and I think it's just always had this connotation that you need to be a nerd, and or a geek, and
well, they rule the world now.
Yeah, totally. But I think the connotation of a geek 30 years ago is very different to what it is now. Like, it's kind of cool to be a geek now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so, so that landscape has changed.
Yeah.
And I think also there was this kind of feeling that, a geek was smarter than everybody else. And I don't think that's necessarily true either. Like, we're all good at doing something different.
Exactly.
We're all, not everybody, and just because it's my job doesn't mean I'm better than you or worse than you. It's just like, this is my job and I like to learn something new every day.
Yeah.
That's, part of my life philosophy.
Sometimes the balance, like IQ up here and EQ's down here,
Exactly
I think EQ, emotional intelligence, is valued a lot more than IQ these days,
totally.
which I think is correct, depending on the job.
And you can have a nice balance between both of those things. You don't have to be one or the other. And, as times change and we have more information available to us, I think we're all a little bit more empathetic with, and understanding of other people's situations, and that whole, I can do this but you can't. That doesn't need to be the case anymore. And when I started IT Lady, and it was really just that when I was working on site with clients, I feel a little bit more like, I would sit at somebody's computer. If somebody got a new computer, I would want to make sure that it was exactly the same as their old one. Like, not that here's your new computer, you got it, like, you're on your own now, go find your icon, set up your email Outlook,
Or caretaking.
I want to just do it, to make them feel homely and comfortable, and to kind of make somebody feel relaxed when I'm working with them. And so, the fact that I don't drink coffee, I just have never really liked it, but I drink tea, and somebody said to me, you've got another cup of tea, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm like the IT lady. And then, then I was like, actually, that's a good name for a company. Not only because it's got the word lady in it, which kind of, hopefully makes it a bit more of a gentle landing space for IT. But also, the thought that you can stop for a minute and have a cup of tea and a biscuit when you have a problem. You know, I remember one of my girlfriends picked her up to go for a walk one day, and she said, "Oh, you know, I can't go for a walk." She was just beside herself with this, you know, personal issue. And I was like, "Okay, well," I mean, we had a cup of a champagne and a Tim Tam, but a coffee and a biscuit, or you know, a glass of wine and a bit. There's just something really calming about a cup of tea and a biscuit, and so I quite liked the connotation of that.
And plus, if you think about it, usually, you know, like when we get stuck with something, if we go and do something totally different, get out, go for a walk, whatever, or even overnight, we have a huge problem and we sleep, we wake up the next morning, we've got that problem resolved. So, just really trying to go hard on something that's not working, it's best just to take a break. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, and so, you know, so for me it was about both of those things, and I thought, you know, IT lady was a good name and a good idea, but like I didn't think it was as good an idea as it was, because we literally, when we started out, the only thing that we did from a marketing perspective, the website, which, you know, I did myself, was put some magnets on the side of our car. And so we just had IT, and all it said was IT lady, technology respite. That's all it said on the magnets. And we had 3 cars driving around with the magnets on, and we had a call every single day.
Really?
Every single day we got a call from somebody who, and the most common thing that we heard was, someone's not going to treat me like I'm an idiot.
And what year was that?
And so that was 2020.
All right.
Beginning of 2020.
So that's really interesting.
Kind of end of 2019.
Because everyone and the dog thinks that, you know, should all be through social media, but some other methods, old school methods in a way, can work. And plus, you know, having that just stuck on your car, it's like free advertising. You don't have to pay for it.
I put it on my kids' cars.
Yeah.
So
that's really smart.
Some magnets.
You don't need to pay for a big bus logo.
No. And we just drove around with them, and every single day we would get a telephone call from somebody who saw.
That's brilliant.
And it didn't, like, it just said nothing else, just IT lady. And so, and I think at the time, you know, and it was also, you know, then kind of COVID hit, and then there was just this whole, we all need to be working from home. So, you know, the customers that we did have, and I had customers that, you know, I'd had for the last 30 years that I brought into the business. But then, you know, building up the business, it was, you know, it was really about getting some of that visibility. And then once people, you know, used our services, then they were just recommending, and then it just became word of mouth. And so, you know, I can say, like, we might have spent $2,000 on marketing in the first 2 years.
Wow.
And
that's brilliant.
Those signs on the side of the car were $20 each.
Yeah. For those listening, try different things.
Vistaprint.
I think that's brilliant.
And I do think that it was, you know, it was just a good time to do it, because people were needing services, people were needing home services, they were needing, and they just, you know, they don't want to call the geek. They don't want a geek. They want someone who'll sit there and be gentle and be kind and be empathetic.
And is it men and women that call you?
Yeah. It is. So we had, for the first couple of years on our website, when you booked with us, you could choose if you wanted a female or a male consultant, or if you didn't care. Nobody said male, but it was direct 50% between female and I don't care.
Right.
So exactly half wanted females. The other half didn't care, but nobody said male. In any of the 300 people that booked us in that first 2 years.
Sorry, guys.
I'm sorry, and the fact is that I couldn't find female technicians. So we have half and half. We've got females and males that work for us.
You don't send them out with wigs, do you?
No. And they would always get, you know, when they turn up and go, "Oh, you're not a female." And so, you know, they have to explain, well, and then I have to explain, well, you know, we're IT lady, but really it's the, you know, so long as you're kind and you're empathetic and you understand somebody else's position and don't treat them like they're an idiot because they're not, then you can work for me. So, you know, so that's been kind of tricky. But then we started doing, we got a couple of government grants to do the over 50s support, and that's where we started doing the aged care, and we did a hospital iPad program where we lent people iPads when they're in hospital as well. And so then what I wanted to do then was set IT Lady up as a charity so that we could really expand, because that's the stuff I love to do. It's the real kind of heart, you know, making a difference.
Yeah, exactly.
Stuff.
Yeah.
And so we did the rebranding.
So tell us about that. So how it started, how you thought of doing that, and the impact it's having as well, and problems you had along the way as well, because this is all about the failures and what we learn from it as well.
So with the we came across this organisation called the Good Things Foundation. They give out grants for supporting over 50s, and that's all about bridging the digital divide and making people feel more comfortable about technology. So we started doing over 50s workshops and working with with the older people. And they've got a really great website with a lot of resources on it, lots of training courses, and I think a lot of the time with technology and older people, it's not that they can't do it, they just think they can't, and they just haven't been told that they can.
Just haven't been taught.
Yeah. And it's not even like it's being taught is one thing, but it's also being told that you can, which is another thing, because there's you can tell them, you can teach them, but until they've got that mind shift in their head that actually I can do this, and so.
My mum was exactly like that for years and years. No, I can't do anything on the computer. I can't do anything. And then when she started, and then she went to some community course, and then she was doing emails and all sorts of stuff. And she was like 90. So.
Yeah, exactly. So we were doing the over 50s support. We got another grant. We had to, do a certain number of over 50s, and my son has a lung kind of disorder, and so we've spent a lot of time in hospital over the years, but he had this incident, his lung collapsed and he was in hospital and he had this tube stuck in it. It was stuck like this for 2 straight weeks.
Terrible.
And so I just was sitting next to him in the hospital bed, just working from the side because he couldn't move, so it was like getting drinks and doing all this stuff. And we're in the respiratory ward at Royal North Shore Hospital, which is predominantly older people with lung conditions, which is generally when people get lung conditions, and Reggie's usually the youngest person on that ward. And so over that period of time, I kind of became the ward mum. It was towards the end of COVID, but pink ladies hadn't come back, and these older people in the ward had nobody to buy the magazines, and I overheard one of the older men, he was basically just going to palliative care, and he said, my biggest regret in life was that I didn't get a mobile phone, and now it's too late and I'm never going to learn how to use them. I've got no way of contacting anybody. There's no phones in hospital beds anymore. And then another lady who was playing this game on her little thing, and I said, what are you playing there? And she said, I'm playing solitaire, but I left my iPad back at the nursing home and I'm not going to be able to get it back. So it occurred to me that we had been, with one of our grants, we've got 5 iPads to lend out to people in the floods at the time. Excuse me. We had these iPads back at the office. I was like, why can't we just lend iPads to people while they're in the hospital? So that was like a year later, because the red tape to get through the hospital program, and then we got more iPads, and we had to set up all of the processes and the forms and to get around all the red tape. So we started a hospital iPad lending program where we go and lend people iPads. Predominantly older people, so we can sit with them and teach them how to use it, and the feedback and we got 5 people, including my son, in the office, qualified as volunteers for the hospital, which is also a long and red tape-filled process. And so we were doing this iPad hospital lending thing, and it worked really, really well. Then they wanted to do some work with digital mentors, and so then I was looking for people who wanted to do volunteer work, and I thought about the kids. My kids did Duke of Ed, and it was really hard to find them volunteer work. And so then I thought, I reckon this would be great for Duke of Ed kids if we can get them trained up as digital mentors. And so then we went kind of down the digital mentor journey, and we did this program where we ended up with, I think we needed 70. We ended up with 120 kids.
120 kids, wow.
Trained into the digital mentor program, and that was only over 3 schools. So we've got schools on the waiting list, waiting to
one of those
do
schools
the
that my
digital
son went
mentor
to.
Yeah, I know, amazing. So and so the kids were just fantastic. So we did the digital mentor training course with them, and then we put them in touch. So then we went down to the local retirement village at Wilson's Point, and we set up a 6-week training course, and we had 20 people come for 6 weeks matched up with these digital mentors, and it was just fantastic.
So tell me some of the inspiring stories of how doing this has helped the elderly and the young people. Like, do you have some stories around that?
So surprisingly, I mean, we've got some really lovely feedback on our IT Lady website, and we've also started putting our digital mentors on the website as well. And surprisingly, I mean, the idea really is for the older people to feel more comfortable with their technology. But the surprise to me was that it feels like the kids got more out of it, or as much out of it. And the kids are just amazing. They're just so invested. Some of them needed time for their volunteer hours for school. The others were just like, no, I don't need the time. I just want to do it.
And they can develop communication skills. And the elderly people, they can have company as well, no? Because I interviewed another gentleman, Tony Rothicker from Youngster.co. He does similar things, going into aged care and retail, and everyone benefits from it.
Yeah, it is. It's a win-win for everybody. It's lovely for us to see. It's great for the retirement village itself to have that kind of interaction and some programs that that the residents can get involved in. And a lot of the time it is people just want company. I mean, I've had people book me for 6 weeks training course. Like, they're fine. We do this. Like, they just, and so people will kind of pay to have company sometimes. Which is sad.
Well, they say now the biggest killer is loneliness, and a lot of people in those nursing homes, they're very lonely. So many benefits. There's, they're getting together as a group to start with, so they're kind of, seeing and chatting with their friends, and they're sitting with these kids who are just so patient and so understanding, and just, and they're really enjoying the process as well. And a whole lot of stuff.
One of the teachers did say to me, we have a lot of very smart and gifted students, and we don't have to teach them anything about computers. They're fine in that respect. What we're teaching them in the digital mentor classes is really about understanding other people and looking at other people's point of view and finding the connection, like what is, asking some questions, finding out what, they really love.
And their skills for life.
Yeah, exactly. And then, we talk about that as the hook, like find the person's hook. What is it that really gets them excited? Like, you can see when you're talking to them, if they, if you ask them about their child or their dog or their family or something will light up. Like, keep coming back to that. So, bring that into the training that you're doing with them when it comes up with, if you want to talk to your daughter, this is the button you're going to press. If you want to, do such and such, this is what you're going to do, and keep bringing that in. And so really for us, the day training for the digital mentors is really about how to teach and how to understand and to connect with people and to really kind of get that connection.
And you actually learn so much more when you teach. You have to really know what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. So, and if you don't, you find out.
Best way to learn is to teach, and there is that expression.
Yeah, that's totally true. And so the learners were having a great time because they're learning new things, and that over that 6-week period they got on the last day they were all getting flowers and chocolates and biscuits. It's really really beautiful. So we really want to continue to expand that program and keep working with that, as well as the hospital ending. But because the same, like, you're in hospital on your own for 2 weeks sometimes, you've got nothing to do, there's nothing to look at, you've got to pay for the television, and so so they're the two things that I love about the IT Lady program. So we've now set IT Lady up as a charity. We're just waiting for our TGR status to come through.
Right.
So that kind of happened at Christmas time. IT Lady had been going for 4 years. We had 60% growth quarter on quarter for 3 straight years, and
What's the secret?
I don't know. Like, just be nice to people as far as I can
Well,
tell. Like, be good at your job. Be nice. And have something that people need.
Networks,
Everyone's
community.
got a computer. So I think there's a lot. There's a lot of that. But growing so quickly is not good.
Yeah, it can be an issue as well. So
There's
tell us about
a lot of
that.
problems.
So
yeah.
what problems
So-
did it cause?
So
and how did
there's,
you overcome
there's
them?
kind of this constant cycle of, we've got all of this work to do. Now we need to put the people in to do the
Yeah.
work. But then, work goes like this. And so now we've got these people that we have to pay for, and we're having a bad month,
Yeah.
or, people haven't paid us for a while. And so, the roller coaster is, I love what we do, and I'm a technical person, so I want to do the technical work.
Yeah.
The hardest thing for me is to take myself away from the technical
Work
work
on your
and
business,
run
not
the
in your
business.
business.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I interviewed right here in the same studio, Leo Plaza, and he was saying he had a business, and once it gets to 1 million, this is really common, you can, you're okay, you're doing it, you've got a few staff, then after that, up to like 10 million, then it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, so we grew really fast in a couple of years. We, I took some people on with some salaries that, we just, and one of the things that somebody said to me right at the very beginning when a mentor said, you just make sure you've got a good accountant.
Right.
And I did have a good accountant. I was like, yeah, my accountant's amazing. But he was an accountant, not kind of a business advisor. And I think I misunderstood the difference between having somebody in the business who's really understanding and day to day helping you understand the profit and the loss and the cash flow, and that, when you take somebody on, what's the ramifications of that? I'm thinking in my head, we're charging this per hour to a customer and I'm paying that person per hour. That seems pretty good. But then, you don't know what that, like, if that person's on full time, how much of their time is billable, right? So the hour to hour doesn't really work out.
Yeah.
It's, you've got overheads and insurance and tax and PAYG and superannuation and all of this stuff. So, so thinking about taking on a person at a particular salary, I didn't really understand. I had to triple that for that to make total sense. And in some cases, building up that business, it's just not feasible to take on people when you think that you need them. And so we definitely had a roller coaster, and I just thought, I've done pretty well as a contractor for 25 years prior to this.
Yeah.
I live in a great place. I sent my kids to private school. I was a single mom, I did.
Yeah.
And
So you're happy with where you are?
Yeah, I did. As a consultant, I did really well. But then I started this business. I've never worked so hard for as little money.
Yeah, that's very common.
And so, and the only difference is you just have to think long game. It's gonna get better. These humps are gonna, and then you just there's weeks and days that are just fantastic, and then there's weeks where you're like, oh my God, how are we going to get through this? And it's a totally different, as a consultant, you just work harder and you get more money. It's pretty easy. Work more hours, you get a bigger paycheck. And that's you just have to make sure everyone's happy with the work that you're doing.
Hopefully not burning out.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but then, you've got staff to pay and they've got families and so this whole level of extra responsibility, as well as trying to do the work and keeping the customers happy and trying to over provide, because you don't want to be the same as everybody else. So we're going to give
the service you give
add a little bit more on top.
may not be the same as what your staff gives. So tell us. So what happened? So
Totally
you started scaling up. So did you scale up?
Yeah. So we scaled up. We kind of got out of control. It was totally like a snowball running down the hill, and I just was running after it as fast as I could.
So what was actually happening when you were out of control?
Well, it just was that we, clients were calling, a new business was coming in every day, new things were happening, and then we've got these people, and then somebody leaves, and you've got to get another person, so that kind of
being on your staff is
chaos.
Huge.
So then you've got to train somebody else up, and then then there's just that kind of I feel like I'm talking faster because I feel when you're just
the stress of it.
Just overwhelming with how much there is to do, and so I came across a husband and wife accounting team. I asked one of our clients one day, they had done really well and they'd sold their business, and I was like, I need a bookkeeper and an accountant, and I just need somebody to be more in the business. And I found this amazing couple, and they just really worked the books for me and said, this is salaries are too high, this needs to be here, this should be here, this is what you should be doing, this is what you want your revenue to be, this is, and they set up a really great budget, and I have, you know, weekly, the wife does the bookkeeping, and she's amazing, and so she does bookkeeping and cash flow every week, and I'm like I said, I can make the fanciest Excel spreadsheet in the world, but I'm not an accountant. I don't really understand it. Like, I kind of get it.
So you get somebody
but
to
it's
do
not my
something
job.
that you're not good at or you don't like.
Exactly.
So whereas like a standard accountant, like we had one as well in our startup, and it's like, oh, okay, guys, well, you know, you're at this point. I think you should just stop what you're doing. It's like, but you don't see the whole picture of what's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, he might have been right actually if we stopped earlier.
Yeah.
But having said that, they're not. They're in the money, the finance, but they're not seeing the whole picture. Some of them. So you need more of a, what would you call it? Like, it's not just accountant, like a finance
It's like a
consultant,
financial controller kind of.
controller. Yeah.
And so Gary and Cleo, they're called KCL Business, amazing. Gary and I, well, the three of us have a meeting once a month to completely go over everything, but they're included in my weekly email to all my staff. So they know what jobs are coming in, what new clients we're working on, what's our focus for this week, what we're doing in marketing. And so they're kind of part of the business, even though, you know, they work, you know, they've got their own business. And that made a really huge difference, because that really put a spotlight on it for me, but also gave me a little bit more confidence in knowing what we could do. So they were like, we need to scale back, we need to restructure. You, as in me, can't be earning as much money as you're earning. You need to drop your salary even further, which is like, I haven't earned this much since I was 20. But you know, the idea of that is let's get the cash flow under control. At the end of 6 months, if you make your budget, you then can get the money back.
Okay.
So you don't get a high salary to start with, you get a really low salary, but it's consistent and you get the same thing. So I have to like change my lifestyle so I can fit into that new salary. So we did a total restructure, and it was around the same time that I wanted to set IT Lady up as a charity. So that's a whole different process. So we needed a new business name. We needed, and it, could be the same business name. So I could have, IT Lady Business and IT Lady Connect, we decided to call it. But then, I kind of thought about it, and I thought, let's just have a different type of tea. So we kind of went down, we literally looked around the office, like Earl Grey, English breakfast, peppermint tea. We came across, it's like, yeah, that's a great name. So, and then it kind of seemed to make sense for Peppermint IT to be the business.
Right, yeah. And that's the name of your business now.
So that's the name of our business. So since January, we've had Peppermint IT as our business. That also then gave us the opportunity to start the books from scratch, to get new contracts to everybody, to make sure that we've got salaries right. So we moved office, we moved to a smaller office, and saved some money on the office, and just did a total restructure.
So one of the key learnings would be, just don't go overboard with spending. Be as lean as possible. I mean, that's totally the case for startups. A lot of them, they might get funding and they go and spend on ridiculous things. Be really lean, as if you don't have that money. Just spend it in the most important areas like sales, etc. No?
Yeah.
Awesome. And what about your, you help people in a really nice, respectful, kind way. I'm guessing your company culture, like your staff, you have that sort of culture? Because we did in our startup. I think that makes a huge difference as well. What are your beliefs there on the way that you treat staff and that sort of culture?
It's really important to me that the staff emulate. Like, you're the business, right? And I'm the person with the passion, and I'm the one that, the way that I want our customers to be treated needs to come from me. We've always said that it's less important what people know, but it's more important what attitude they have when
totally
they're
agree.
And I think that that's true in all businesses, but in IT, I actually don't care if you've been to uni or you've got an IT degree. We can teach you what you need to know, because it changes in IT every day anyway. So, if you've done a 3-year IT degree, whatever you did in term 1 3 years ago is totally irrelevant now, and it's not going to help you.
Especially with AI coming out.
Exactly. Like every single week something's different. Every single week Microsoft changes the names of their products.
Yeah. So you need like an adaptable person.
You're selling to something to somebody, and all of a sudden it's got a different name. So to me, it's really important that we have people who share our values. And we, our values are pretty well stated. In fact, we've just redone all of our job descriptions, and our values are at part of the job description, like, kind of related to whatever their job is. And that's, it's really about respect and kindness and honesty and collaboration. And
because that's your reputation as well.
Yeah.
It's probably why you're successful.
Yeah.
I would say.
So I think, making sure that we've got people with the right values, but also, they need to be adaptable, and we also need to be honest, because we don't always know what the problem is and how to fix it. Every single problem you go to see has a different set of variables that have fed into what that issue is.
Yeah.
And, probably 4 times out of 10, we've never seen it before. That nobody has. Like, you can look on the internet,
got to be a good
and we have to
solver.
we have to be really good at Google.
Yeah.
We have to be.
Well, yeah. Or do you use chat as well?
Yeah, totally. I use it every day.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the combination of ChatGPT has certainly made my life a whole lot easier in the last 6 months. Like, the amount of extra productivity that I get out of it is phenomenal. But, and for our staff as well, like, whatever, we might need to collaborate about something, we might need to, there's so many different, nobody has the same setup. Nobody has the same computer, the same products, the same issues, the same, we've done 5 migrations in the last month, and every single one of them has been different.
Yeah.
And so, we're dealing with lots of different things each time, so you have to be flexible, you have to be adaptable, and you kind of have to have that, everything looks great, but underneath you're the duck on water, right? But we know that we're going to solve the problem.
Yeah.
We need to make you comfortable that that we can, so that you're not feeling stressed about it while we're working on what that solution might be. Because sometimes we know, sometimes
have a cup of tea and we'll work it out for you.
Exactly.
Yeah. So when it comes to mental health and like running a business, like you said, it can be really stressful. What does Louise do to maintain her mental health, and apart from drinking tea, obviously?
Tea helps. So I do whatever I can. I mean, exercise is obviously a big thing. I've always been a crazy exerciser, and I would have to say that that's probably the biggest thing that has fallen off my radar in the last 3 years, because I would probably work 12 hours a day.
Right.
But I try as much as I play netball twice a week.
Okay.
And that's my forced exercise. Our Tuesday night team just went back up to Division 1, which I was not that happy about. But I play mostly with kids in their 20s, and that keeps me. I've played on, in the same location on pretty much the same team with changes of people for the last 30 years, and I've always called that my weekly therapy session.
Yeah, probably is.
Because it's the only thing that I can do where I totally forget about the world for an hour. I can run, I can go to the gym, I can walk to work, I can walk home from work, but I'm thinking the whole time.
Yeah.
Where when I'm playing a game in netball, nothing. Like, I'm just like, you're just there, totally immersed, right? Like, getting that aggression out. I'm generally not an aggressive.
It's funny because I was just talking with my daughter the other day, saying, we're talking about like the granddaughter, maybe she'll play some sport in the future. I said, netball. She said, no, that's really vicious. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, yeah, they can be really aggressive. I had no idea about that.
It's very aggressive. And it's funny because I think in terms of aggressiveness, I'm in general life, I'm probably the calmest, but like, I just don't, like, even with my kids, I don't even raise my voice. I just have
but
to
you
say
get on
the
the
name.
court, it's like,
on the court, totally different story. Like, my
hilarious.
entire frustration for the whole week is coming out in that 1 hour on the netball court.
Get it out.
And so you can just like, it's exercise, like the endorphins are going, you're with your team, so there's like that.
So at the end of the match, the opposition, blood noses, black eyes, and Louise is feeling
you try
better.
not to hurt anybody. I've never hit anybody. The closest I came to hitting someone was when my daughter was playing on the same team and someone was being mean to her.
Right.
And I was pretty close to hitting her. My daughter did say it was a bit embarrassing to play with, because I think I do get a bit mouthy and stuff, but I don't. I'm an attack
I was
player.
just
So it's very different. I know, but like there is some truth to it, so it's funny because, and if you understand like the positions on the netball court, there's attacking players and the defending players.
Right.
So in my mind, the defending players are like they're going for the argy-bargy, whereas the attack, like we're just trying to run away. We're just trying to do our thing and stay out of trouble.
Yeah. Forget about rugby, just a bunch of whips.
Exactly.
Get on the netball court.
Yeah.
So what's next
so
for what's next for Louise?
So we, so my focus this year really has been to make sure Peppermint IT grows at a sustainable rate from now on. And we have, we've got pretty solid plans now to increase Peppermint IT. So we'll be, we're planning to go national. One of our staff works in France.
Wow. Very good.
So potentially we'll go international before national. Yeah. But definitely to expand Peppermint IT around Australia. On the IT lady side, same. So, so I would really like within the next 2 or 3 years to have somebody else running Peppermint IT. Okay. And I just focus on IT lady and I just go do all the lovely heartwarming things that I love to do. Because, if I could work for free, I would. And I think for me that's been one of the other biggest challenges for me in business is that when I do work for people, I'm very conscious about how much it's costing them, and I'll give a discount wherever I can. Right. And I've learned that I can't do that because, and that's fine, works well for me if I'm myself as a consultant and I want to give somebody, a bit of a discount because I'm concerned about their financial well-being. Yeah. But it doesn't work if you're running a business and you've got staff to pay and things to cost. So I've really had to learn very specifically what our product is worth and what our value is, and I have an amazing now account manager who does the invoicing. Okay. And I, even if somebody comes into the office and we have to give them an invoice, I leave. Right. because if they look at me sideways, I'm going to give them a discount. Okay.
But what do you think that is in you that makes you think that you need to give everyone a discount? And look, I'm very much the same. But what do you think? Why is it that you feel like that? Do you think?
I think it is that when I see that, and for any IT business to run, you need recurring revenue. So it needs to be a monthly billing cycle because that's the only way that I can have staff available when you have a problem. I can't hire a full-time person on the presumption that you might call us 3 times this month. So that recurring revenue stream was really hard for me to come to terms with because if I had to pay it, I'd be really annoyed. Like if I had to pay $2,000 a month in IT support for my company, I would be annoyed about that. But what I realise is I'm annoyed about that because I can do it.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm not annoyed about having to pay my accountant $2,000 a month and my marketing girl $2,000 a month and my staff $1,500. I'm paying everybody else for the services that they provide. Yeah. And what I realised is I was kind of taking that frustration that I would feel and projecting it onto the customer. Like I would be annoyed myself if I had to pay $1,500 a month for a 6-person company. But it's not the case when I think about it. And so, now that I've got that mind shift, like it's valuable to you. It's something that you need. IT is the backbone of your business now. Security, infrastructure, productivity. It's all run from the IT department. And if you can pay somebody to do that and not have to think about it, it's worth the money.
Cybersecurity.
So exactly. Cybersecurity, huge. That's part of our monthly ongoing packages now is we're managing your cybersecurity. We're monitoring it. If something happens, we've got a strategic plan in place for what we do if something does get through.
And I interviewed somebody recently that Michael and his whole company was, when they hack into it and they screen of death and then they wanted him to pay half a Bitcoin, like at a really high price. He ended up paying that, but he regrets so much not having something set up in place.
That's right, and that's 90% of those types of scam attacks are human related. Somebody's called, they've spoken to the person, they've gone through these, they're very elaborate.
There's so much,
And so
many scams going on there
Yeah,
all over
exactly.
them, in your phone, on messages, on phone calls.
Yeah. So, part of our monthly plans is that we have training, we do the monitoring, we've got a disaster recovery plan, we've got backups happening, we've got, that's all part of a really important service.
Yeah.
And so, for me, it was really coming to terms with the fact that I don't need to feel bad for charging that.
Yeah.
Because, it would annoy me because it's my job.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm not paying myself.
Yeah,
to
yeah.
do
No,
that.
that's a good
Just
point.
like the accountant's not paying himself.
Yeah, exactly.
He's charging me the money and he's not feeling guilty
Yeah,
about
yeah.
it because that's his service and it's making me not worry about my finances. And that's worth the money to me.
Absolutely.
And so, so it was really that mind shift for me in having to say, we're providing you with an essential service.
Yeah.
It's just going to cost you this amount of money.
You got
need
to
put
value
it
what
in
you
your
do.
P&L.
You got to value what you do.
Yeah.
So now, if somebody was starting, with a startup, they've got basic IT stuff going on. They haven't got any money when they're just starting. What basic things can they do to hopefully be safe? Like backup, security, all that sort of stuff. What are just the very basic things that they should get right, not to have any issues at that very beginning point?
One of the first things I think that I would recommend is not just setting up a Gmail account as your business email address. I would set up, and if you do want to go, the two main platforms are Google or Microsoft.
Yeah.
I prefer the security around the Microsoft suite of products, but Google is getting better. So one of the things that you want to do is pay for a domain and your own, and hosting your own email.
Yeah.
Because just a home free Gmail address, that's
Can be hacked?
the leak. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think you want to get your own domain name. You want to make sure that you're paying a business service for your email address, and it's probably going to cost you $20 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Once you've got that, if you're looking at the Microsoft suite, you've got a domain name, you've got a business suite structure, you've got a SharePoint where you can safely, securely store all of your documents. So if you're in Google Workspace, similar. Once you've got that, that's going to give you a more robust foundation for your emails and your interactions with people. That's going to have your two-factor authentication, super important to make sure that nobody's hacking into those accounts. I would say that's base. Get that set up, because then at least you know that you've got your documents stored securely in a cloud service. Make sure that you're using a business product, don't use home products. And then that gives you also a really good foundation for building. So as you get new staff, so you might have your name at your business name as your main email account. In Microsoft, you get shared email boxes, so you can have a sales at, accounts at, admin at. They don't cost you anything. They're called shared mailboxes.
Okay.
So you're still only paying for one main email
Google
account.
doesn't have
Google has a version of that.
that? Okay.
It works slightly different. I personally like the way that Microsoft has it set up. But Google has, I don't know what they're called, but it's similar, not as seamless from an operational setup perspective. And that then, because that also then gives you your range of products, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, sitting on your computer. So I'd say that's base to start with. Once you've got that set up, then you can easily grow with that, and you're adding people on, and then you can start getting your processes set up around that. Because when you're starting to employ people, you want to have user setup forms, make sure everybody's set up the same way, and then once you're at 4 or 5 people, well, once you're over 200,000 or 300,000,
That's when we call you.
Yeah, that's when you call us to make sure that you've got the right tools, because as soon as you start employing other people, that's when you're getting more risk into the business as well. Because the more people you've got who've got access to their email address, if they use their work email address to buy shopping online, and those, we can do the monitoring of those email addresses.
So do you think that having a Google sheet and all the passwords we had in our startup is good security?
I've seen that a lot. I would also encourage you to use a password manager.
Okay.
And
I
also
was using
not to
one
store any
that was-
passwords in your browser.
But I was using one that was hacked. I forget the name. Was a big one.
LastPass.
Yeah. And then I went over to Bitwarden, which I was recommended. Like, do you have any recommendations on that front?
I use LastPass personally. We use NordPass for our business customers,
Okay.
and that's also part of our recurring monthly package. We put
But the
that
problem is
in
if
as
they're
password
hacked,
management.
like LastPass, some people were hacked on that, right? Then everything's in there. I've got like 300 passwords in my
Yeah.
Bitwarden.
Yeah, I moved from one password package to the other and
Yeah, I did too.
transferred 760.
Oh, right.
It's
just ridiculous.
I've signed up for
Yeah.
a lot of things
Yeah.
over the
I should
years,
just
let
do
me
1,
tell
2,
you.
3, 4 and use that for everything. You know, it'd be so much simpler.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about the security, but.
Yeah.
Well, Louise, it's been wonderful chatting to you. So we've still got some peppermint tea here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So here's
Lovely.
to peppermint IT. And here's to success of your new startup, I guess, not for profit or charity,
Yeah.
which is doing wonderful work. And
Yeah.
wishing you all the best. And look, maybe we'll get you in another year and see how that's all going.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah. Thanks so much for being on the
All right.
podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure.